Yeah. Yes, I can tell you at a high level. So I think uh, different com so these challenges would be different for depending upon the business model. Because for the companies who are not in a marketplace, they will have a better control because they are themselves as a retailer. So a lot of that will be kind of taken care by their tie-ups and relationships with the OEMs or the bigger manufacturers and having those controls at a warehouse level, right? So that is something that happens. And that was true even in the marketplace model that I've worked in the past in the Amazon. So what will happen is like there will be certain things that will done at an upstream level, which will be at a warehouse level. There will be a lot of checks and balances that will happen. So there are technologies which is known to everyone. There will be vision technologies which kind of are deployed to kind of make sure that are there ways in which we can kind of better to identify some of those counterfeits or not? And obviously, we get better at it and what signals that we want to kind of do. So that's one part of it. Now, there are so that's one. The other part of it is happen. Let's assume that we are not able to kind of identify that at the upstream level. The product got listed, the product has been selling, and now we don't know whether if it is a counterfeiter or not. The other ways to kind of do that is what are the customer signals that you're getting, right? So whether it is the feedbacks, whether it's the returns, whether it is so there are various channels in which you kind of get that, right? So it could be feedbacks, it could be returns, it could be your CX, like you're calling the call centers, they are kind of giving you that information and so on and so forth. So there are multiple channels in which this information needs to be aggregated and then kind of make sense of it. And there are models out there, some of the transform models and things like that to be on the specific side, which can kind of help. Uh, get this data, understand this data, and make sense of it. That whether does it mean that there is signals of a counterfeiter or not, and then that is where you start kind of having better ways of kind of identifying it. And the only challenge being is like once you productionalize it, how do you kind of manage the false positives part of it so that you are not kind of blocking the ones which are actually not counterfeited and so on and so forth. So those kind of interesting challenges come into play, but that's how it primarily happens.
Sure, Vishal, sure. Like I think probably we picked up one as a counterfeit as a problem which you're solving. Which are the other problems you have solved, right? Apart from analyzing customer behavior and other things, which are all I would say run of the mill, stuff, right? Which are the other interesting problems you have solved, Vishal? I mean, say when you, I'm not talking about either the current organization Best Buy or even the past organization, but I think as a leader you would have interacted with so many other
Yeah,
people, some
yeah.
interesting problems. So could you throw some more, Vishal?
Yeah, so even on the risk side or the abuse side, there are multiple problems, right? Especially on the marketplace side. So counterfeit is just one part of the problem, but then there are different other abuse vectors. There could be wherein the product could be damaged, the product could be used sold as new, right? In marketplaces where you also have something like a food items, right? Do you have there could be challenges on the fact that it's actually an expired product, right? So, or it is a close to expiry. How do you kind of identify that? Because the idea is uh, the and it depends upon like 1P versus 3P and like what are the costs for the logistics and all of that. All of these ladder up. The end goal is that how you can kind of have lower returns, how you obviously lower returns, but also how we can have better customer experience. Because at the moment customers starting having bad experience from the products that you are kind of posting, they'll start having lower trust on that particular company or a platform in general, because the assumption is if someone is coming on a platform, they'll believe that all of those checks and balances have already been done by that company, and that's why it's done. So how to get better at it is something that is very very important, right? So yeah, so I think those are on the abuse part of it. Then there are like standard recommendations and all of that. That continues to be an evolving space. The and One of the ways in which the all of these marketplaces or online companies are thinking about is on how to kind of have those recommendations at what point of time, right? So, for instance, uh, where customer is in part of their journey. So, are they in the discovery phase? Are they in a stage where they've already made up the mind and say, hey, by the way, I've purchased, I feel that I need to be purchasing this product, but then is there anything else that could also help me make this product a little bit better, right? So which could be more about the complementary part of it. So where in the customer journey do you want to show? Do you want to show it during your homepage? Do you want to show it on your search side of it? Do you want to show onto your add to cart side of it? Do you want to show those recommendations after you've already made a purchase and all of that, right? So and different and during the different stages of that customer journey, there would be different set of recommendations or different set of things that should happen, right? So that's another interesting piece that continues to be a problem that all of these retailers are continuing to get better at, and then make sure that how that is done in a better way. The third thing that comes into my mind is obviously as we're thinking about any retailer in general, both over here globally or even in India, if you can see, there's a huge play of how advertisements or promotions is becoming like a very important aspect, right? Uh, these are high margin things, and because the margin on that is pretty high. And then if you're able to kind of put it in a place which is more relevant to customers, it becomes very good, right? So, but the question is now, from a data and AI perspective, which ones do you show, where do you show it, even on the advertiser side of it, which advertiser is better versus not certain better, and optimizing a lot of there on the conversion side of it, and so on and so forth, right? So that is again becoming a very important play in general for online retailers to say how we can kind of capitalize more on the advertising part of it.
Fantastic, Vishal. Nicely summed it up. From an omnichannel perspective, right? Is there any interesting use case? I'm sure there will be hundreds of interesting problems you would have solved. Anything comes in top of your mind, Vishal?
From a from an omni-channel perspective, I think it goes back to something that I was saying on the recommendations, right? Now, what happens is like one could be like what products you're recommending and where you're recommending, right? So understanding uh, this is a product that you can have in 2 hours because it is closer to your place, it is closer to your home, and then kind of recommending that in that versus something that is would take like 10 days to kind of come to your place and ship it and so on and so forth, right? So that is something that has become super important. The other thing that becomes super important for a company like Best Buy becomes is because from a services perspective, it's not just a product that we are into it. We are also into a lot of services like repairs, insurance. Some of that also happens within the store. Some of it also happens through home visits. So how we can kind of have a lot of those understanding like where the customer, not just the customer journey is, but also from the fact that where the product journey is, right? So it is at the end of the cycle, whether it's middle of the cycle, should it be refreshed, should it not be refreshed? How we can kind of troubleshoot, how we can kind of give them the right guidance where they may not even have to come to a store and they can kind of figure it out by themselves, right? So all of those kind of things. So those are some of the ways in which it becomes more complicated and kind of make sure that we are able to kind of give the right service at the right time to customers.